right, we're recording. But yeah, so I've been looking. I don't know where I want to live, like I said, other than close to Central Park,
Uh-huh.
And let me show you the view of the unit that I was. Again, like you were saying, there's not a lot of stuff around in Long Island City, but damn it, man, for the price, I'm getting like a good view, gyms. There's not a quote unquote rooftop area, but they do have like common space outside on like the eighth floor or something like that.
Right.
Um, I don't know. I mean, look at that view. I just sent it to you.
Yeah, it's really nice.
You can't get that almost anywhere else. You have to be outside of the city.
No, yeah, true. No, it's really nice. It's really nice.
I don't know. I don't know what to do. I literally went to go look at the apartment today, and it's pretty cheap. I think if I pay a little bit more, I might be able to get a balcony. Um, but yeah, that's what's going on over here. What's going on with you, man?
I'm just taking a hiatus from New York right now. I'm in Massachusetts, where my grandparents are performing grandparent duty, so they have a small little second house up here. So just to change the scenery for a short period of time.
Where in Massachusetts?
This is Wayland, Massachusetts.
I'm gonna pretend to know where that is.
Yeah, it's in the suburbs west of Boston.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. And just really quick, do you want to remind everyone kind of like your background a little bit before we start talking about Trump?
I mean, for me, all right. So my background is what I been out of law school for 5 years, and working mostly in commercial litigation, but always still following the political landscape and developments in constitutional law.
Yeah, I was telling one of my friends, I was like, James is going to be on and we're going to be talking about Trump and stuff and the whole impeachment. And they're like, yeah, well, who does he think he is, being able to talk about this? I'm like, well, I think he's probably a little bit more qualified than the average person.
I don't know. I mean, uh,
Look, if I ever need a lawyer, I'm calling you.
I'd hope so. I'd hope so.
I'll tell you
I'll
that
get you
much.
out.
Yeah. Like, hey, man, I just dumped the body. What do I do next?
Mhm. So, what questions do people have about impeachment? Or, I mean, how closely are they following it? Because, as we know, this is the unprecedented, historical second impeachment of a president, and there were only three impeachments before the first impeachment of Trump over the Ukrainian phone call. Before that was Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. Everyone remembers that one.
Classic.
Yeah, and then before that was Andrew Johnson back in the 1800s. But so what do people talking about it? Because I remember the first impeachment, and I watched a little of it and I followed it a little bit, but in the congressional hearings, but I didn't really know that many people that were like really tuned in.
Well, I don't think people are necessarily all balls deep into the details, but I will say that through some of the conversations that I've had and what I see on social media, it's the very first question is this even legal? Because Trump is out of the office. Like, he's out of office. He's no longer the president. What are they doing trying to impeach someone?
Right.
So is like what is your take on that?
Well, that's a good question. So they call it the jurisdictional question. So even before you get to whether there should be, like where impeachment is going. So the House of Representatives brought articles of impeachment saying, hey, Trump did this incitement of insurrection, and for that he should be accountable for that. But what is accountability? Like you said, typically in the Constitution, impeachment is the House of Representatives brings charges, and then the Senate tries the president in order to remove him under the Constitution. But of course, as we know, the the riot, or what some have called the insurrection, the siege, what have you, happened January 6th, and then Trump was gone by the inauguration, I believe, January 20th. So
Right.
the question is jurisdictionally whether the president can be tried for impeachment after he's left office. Now, some people say not, because impeachment should be about removing someone. But then the
Right.
counter argument is like, well, then does that mean if he does something that's impeachable and terrible, and he isn't removed, then there's no consequences? And ultimately, what it's really about is whether under another provision of the Constitution, the 14th Amendment, which says that those that have partaken in an insurrection or taken up arms against the United States can be disqualified from office. So that's really what the Democrats in Congress were looking for, is by holding him accountable. Obviously, he's no longer in office. We all know Uncle Joe is in the Oval Office right now, but what they're looking for is a conviction, not to remove him because he's already gone, but
Right.
in order to disqualify him from future office.
Why
Which,
why do you think they're trying to do that?
well, they're trying to, a couple of things is their point of view is, yeah, he can be sued civilly. He's been sued throughout his presidency civilly for different things, but it's not clear that those lawsuits would go anywhere, because he claimed some sort of immunity. Criminal prosecution, once again, um, uh, public officials are very protected under the First Amendment for their speech, because
So basically, wait. So this is another thing that I hear is that they're trying to charge him outside of this, right? So in a civil court or
right.
somewhere else, they're trying to like sue him for, I don't know, whatever they're trying to sue him for. And so they're saying, okay, well, if that fails, at least we have this impeachment where we can actually prevent him from ever running for office again,
Yeah,
right?
that's what they want. Like, I'm sure that to Trump's opponents, they're trying to, they want everything on the table, but impeachment is the main method to prevent him from ever coming back and saying enough's enough. We had enough. We don't want you running again. And the election, a new election in the primaries, that starts in 2 years. It's not too far away. So,
Well, why don't the Democrats just, run someone who's like really good and then they don't have to worry about Trump winning?
well, I mean, that's one counter argument that, of course, Republicans would put forward, is like, hey, there's a democratic process, and
Right. Let the people decide.
let the people decide, not the Congress. And uh, if you allow these impeachment articles to go forward and he gets convicted, then hey, then what prevents the Congress from disqualifying anyone that they don't like that's in the
Right.
minority?
Right.
So it becomes this sort of question of um, elections, and the value of a democratic process as far as beyond the Congress. But it's a deep question, because the opponents of Trump and the ones maybe advocating for conviction are saying, "Hey, this was really bad. His whole presidency was bad, but this was way
Over the top.
beyond, over the top, beyond anything that we've ever talked about, beyond the Ukrainian phone call. Like, this was it. Like, he led a group of protesters to storm a co-equal branch of government, and put lawmakers' lives in jeopardy. And so this was kind of an attack on the government and the governmental process itself. So this is way beyond that, and for that, he shouldn't really he should not be able to run for office in the future.
Did you watch his speech and kind of the arguments from either side on whether he should be found guilty or not guilty?
Yes, and yeah, I definitely saw a lot of the proceedings, and I can kind of break it down in this way. So the impeachment managers, those from the House of Representatives that voted to impeach, they send over these impeachment managers to the Senate, and they give their presentations first. They lay out their case against, former President Trump. And what they say is the fundamental thing that he did wrong, even before the Capitol riots, is to say he undermined the democratic process by saying, "Hey, the election was illegitimate. There's a big fraud with mail-in ballots and all the rest that, and if we don't win the election, it's because of all this fraud that's trying to undermine the ability for Trump to win re-election."
Is that actually illegal, or is that something that is up for debate of whether he should or shouldn't have? Right? Like I think everybody can agree that maybe he shouldn't be saying stuff like that, but is it really illegal?
Well, the counter argument is, well, that specifically, I don't think that anyone says that that's illegal.
Okay.
But that he's what they're trying to lay out the case for is not only was and we'll get to it, his conduct bad as far as what happened on January 6th, but he was trying to undermine the whole system of government, many weeks, months beforehand. So it begins there by telling what the impeachment managers would say, quote, is the big lie, which is that the election is and will be fraudulent. And then the election takes place and he starts losing. And then he says, oh, this is terrible. We can't have this. And then it culminates in the January 6th speech in front of his supporters, where he's like, we gotta protest and show those in Congress that they should not certify the election results from the various states and send it back to the states to review objections. And so from that, they say, hey, if you listen to the mob in the videotape and the recordings, they're very violent. They're very angry people, and his speech really inflames them, incites them to go to the Capitol as he directed, and then assault police officers and storm the building. So that's their argument, which is he led them, he provoked them. He said, we have to fight like hell is the thing that they keep pushing.
Yep.
We have to fight like hell and, show those lawmakers in Congress what's up. So that's their argument is, he directed.
So it's more like a step one. He initially undermined the whole democratic process, right? Like, hey, right. I'm going to stick this out there. So when I lose, or if I lose, I can say, hey, look, you see, I told you, right? Like,
right.
It's all fraud. They stole the election. And then step two is he inflamed what he had already started.
Right.
Of, hey, it all got stolen. It's all fake. And now I'm going to stand in front of you and I'm going to tell you to fight like hell to fight to get our country back.
Yeah. And, stop the steal. And we got to fight, and we can't concede, and all the rest. So that's their argument is, he knew it was likely that they would use violence against the Capitol Police and against lawmakers that they didn't like, against Mike Pence for going through with the certification of the state electoral ballot of the presidential electoral ballots,
Yeah.
and then the defense from Trump's private counsel. As a private citizen, he's hired these lawyers, and they make a series of counter arguments. The first one is the one that we talked about, which is to say, hey, jurisdictionally, this shouldn't really be happening because
he's out of office.
He's out of office. Impeachment is for removal, is not for disqualifying people. And if you go forward with impeachment for disqualification, that's definitely a very dangerous thing, because then you just start disqualifying those that are in the minority party and those that you disagree with, which is not good. They make a kind of due process argument where they say the impeachment. So no evidence is actually well, it depends, but they're saying the connection between Trump and the protest wasn't adequately reviewed because the House of Representatives, which is minority Democrat, just didn't hold any hearings like in the first one. They didn't have panels of experts and takes on what happened. They just voted on the articles of impeachment and just sent them over to the Senate. They didn't do the adequate hearing and review due process where even Republican congressmen and women would be able to ask questions, review papers. They didn't do any of that. They just wrote up Trump is terrible and he should be disqualified and sent it over to the Senate. And then past those kind of more procedural arguments, they also say, hey, he never said the things that the Democrats want you to think he said, which is he never said storm the Capitol. He never said beat people up. He never said fight in the context of using violence. He actually said, hey, protest peacefully, or if it was fight like hell, it meant more about challenging those people that supported the certification in primary elections, in the midterms coming up in the future. So
fight like hell to get people to come out and vote and represent yourself, right?
Right. And then probably most prominently, while on the one side, the Democrats showed a lot of film of the actual siege and how violent it was with security cam footage on the inside. That was one of the big takeaways from their side. So they showed how violent it was in a more graphic way than that may have been portrayed in the media. On the other side, the Republicans showed clips of prominent Democrats using the word fight, and it could have been different contexts, and also aggressive language from various senators and others, saying that you gotta fight for this, fight for that, or they really want to beat up Trump, or all their sort of very visceral, very in your face sort of language. So they showed clips of that to say, hey, this sort of language is commonplace in our kind of daily political discourse. So the kind of in the root of their position, they're saying, hey, he never said go and storm the Capitol and I want you to do that and the Capitol is right there. He never said that. It's a complete misconception to believe that he did. Is their argument. And then finally, their final argument is just the First Amendment argument, saying, hey, all the speech, whatever he said, can be wrapped up in First Amendment language. It was not something that was would cause people to become violent. It was merely protected speech in the political discourse that the Constitution allows, especially political leaders, to engage.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about the First Amendment last time that we talked. And yeah, I mean, to me, that's kind of what I was thinking about this whole process is the First Amendment is there to protect you from the government for whatever you may say, right? So you're allowed to have your opinion, you're allowed to say whatever. You're just, I guess the limitations is don't yell fire in a crowded uh, movie theater, right?
Theater, yeah.
That's kind of like the sample of what not to say. Um, well, before we go any further, after you know the left side said, "Hey, he's guilty of insurrection," and then the right side said, "Hey, he's not guilty of insurrection." From your perspective, what did you think should have been the outcome, and why?
Well, and once again, this is a difficult question because it mixes both political and legal. And also, I think that your view of things is really colored in how you view Trump. If you like Trump, you're gonna say that whatever he did was bad. If you're pro Trump, you'd kind of be willing to accept it because that was the guy that was elected and he came in that package. Everyone knew what that package was.
Yep.
And no one's really surprised by the language that he provided. So on this one really cuts down in like preconceived notions. Strictly speaking, and to answer your question, I don't think in the words as if you actually look at the full video that was presented, and even I, from my just seeing on mainstream news, I even had a different notion that maybe it was more violent than it actually was. But so looking at the actual words, I would probably be in the camp that said it was not incitement to violence. He never said, go break those things down and go break into Nancy Pelosi's office. He never said that. But I could see where some people say, hey, these are your supporters. You should have known that they're angry about it and you were just whipping them up. But strictly speaking, I'd probably be in the camp that said no, it was not incitement to violence.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. Just to clarify, I am not a Trump supporter, but good Lord. I mean, they showed, I don't remember what news channel I was watching, but they were showing some of the footage of what Trump was saying, right? And it was like, oh, hit him upside the head. And if you get charged, I'll pay for your legal fees, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, oh, that's from 2006 or
Right.
not 2006, 2016. And I'm thinking, okay, this has been around for years. And I don't know. I think that finally those idiots that do follow him blindly, they had something planned up weeks ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before Trump gave that speech, before Trump did anything, they were already talking about, well, if Trump loses, we're gonna have to take this country back on our own. That rhetoric has just been out there for ages, and so all of a sudden, it happens. It shouldn't have happened. Everyone that stormed the Capitol is a moron, like a genuine moron. But do I think that Trump is guilty of doing is he responsible? Like, there's not a single image of him there. There's not a single image or audio of him telling them what to do, right? Like, oh, the office is that way, or the Senate is that way, or anything like that, right? Now, do I think that Trump is an idiot for even talking to them? Probably, but the man lives off of attention, right? So if he sees a giant crowd that has Trump flags, of course he's going to go out there and give a speech and do all the political rhetoric that every other politician does, right? We're going to fight like hell. We're going to take our country back. We're going to turn things around. We're going to do blah, 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 blah. So yeah, and it's so funny that if you like you were saying earlier, if you're very pro Trump, you're gonna be like, oh, he's innocent of everything, right? He's only doing it for the best of the country. And then on the other side, I have a buddy of mine who has like, I was arguing with him via text. I was like, dude, I don't think he's guilty, right? Like, I've seen not the entire video, but pretty much everything that the liberals want me to watch, I've seen it, and I just don't see anything. He's like, well, you need to watch a whole video, and I'm like, okay, dude, like point to me the language where he says, go storm into the Capitol, destroy it, kill people, and try and hunt down like individuals. No, at no point does he say that. So I don't know. I just don't. I think it was a giant waste of time to try and impeach him on this. If you want to impeach him, and I don't know if you agree with this, but if you want to impeach him, you can impeach him on the fact that he called what was it, Georgia, and literally said, "Hey, I'm looking for like 17,000 votes. Can you find them?" Like that's strategy right there. Like the man is calling a state and telling them to find votes. Is that not like corruption or illegal? Like,
I mean that was, and I only skimmed the articles of impeachment that was in there, but it wasn't like the main thing. Obviously, the riots were the main thing. But going back to a point that you were raising, and this was something. I mean, this was. There are some people that say that these are false equivalents, but there was something that got me in the Trump's attorney's presentation where they did the clips of prominent Democratic either people in the media, celebrities, or senators saying things that I hadn't seen before. And it may be different because Trump was Trump and he was much more controversial and had the biggest microphone, and he's held to a higher standard. I believe is true as president versus another political leader. But for Cory Booker to say, I want to punch him in the face, and for Joe Biden to say, I want to, take him behind the gym and essentially beat him up.
I remember that.
I hadn't seen these video clips before, but it did get me because they weren't played up as much. I'm like, our political rhetoric needs to like stop. People need to chill out. And and I wanted to make this point to even now and to other people. Trump was another level, especially when you read his Twitter. Like that was like another world. But I mean, he is merely a symptom of the political dialogue and the toxicity.
Absolutely.
In politics,
absolutely.
He's not the cause. It's just getting higher and higher and higher, and it just needs to like end. Like people need to chill out.
Yeah, I've gotten into an argument with friends over that exact same point where, yes, I agree, Trump is an idiot. Yes, he shouldn't say a lot of these things, right? But he didn't start it, right? Like all of this has been going on for ages, and it just gets amped up more and more and more as social media grows, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, no longer just, hey, I'm going to try to make the 5 o'clock news. Now it's, I'm going to go viral, and people are going to eat it up.
And people use language that like they really shouldn't, and too easily. Like it's so easy, like for like Nancy Pelosi now to say, hey, there's these cowardly Republicans that won't vote to convict, or unpatriotic on the other side, using very visceral and demeaning language to talk about people that you have disagreements with. And it's a different low in political
just rhetoric. Like in 2016 when Hillary got caught calling Trump supporters deplorable,
right?
And it's like, well, you don't have to do that, like, yes, that's your opinion, but if we really want to move forward as a country, you shouldn't say stuff like that. And same thing goes for Trump, right? Like he goes out there and says these stupid things, but people eat that shit up. And I guarantee you, if I talk to half of my liberal friends and I say, well, Hillary shouldn't have said that they were deplorable, she'll be like, well, they are deplorable. And it's like, okay, well, see, this is part of the problem now, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's the kind of broken nature fundamentally in politics. And um, if you can have grown up discussions that are you know filled with respect rather than just animosity, then you can't really work together.
Right. No, yeah,
And
and that makes me sad.
yeah, it's kind of the just the position that we find ourselves in, but it's it's just the environment that we're in right now for now and the foreseeable future.
Do you think Trump will run again?
I don't. It's really. I mean, it's really too early to say. We'll see. We'll see whether he just wants to have influence or he wants to run again. I mean, um, it's yeah. I can't really say. Can't really say.
I don't
But
think
you
he
know,
is.
he's already old, and maybe he wants to live out his time in Florida and Mar-a-Lago playing golf. But yeah, it's not clear where we're going.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna run again because he's got nothing to win. Like he was already president. Like Barack Obama made fun of him for not being president. Now he was literally president for 4 years, and now he's done, and so he already did everything that he wanted to do. Um, he pulled all the strings that he wanted to pull, and I don't know. I think that the biggest outcome of his presidency is literally just finding out how powerful social media can be. Because I don't really necessarily blame Trump for everything that's happened. Uh, Not that he helped at all, but I mean, you go on social media, man, you see these people just like even yesterday it was President's Day, and they're like, "Oh my God, President Trump, thank you, like God bless you, you're still winning, they stole the election, blah blah." And it's like, come on, man. Like, I remember when Trump first won, and all the liberals were upset. All the right wingers were like, "Ha, get over it, accept it, accept it." Uh, Trump won, you shouldn't be a baby, you shouldn't cry about it, blah blah blah. And now that Trump loses, they're like beyond upset. They're like in denial, in 1,000% denial. And it's like, I look, again, I don't support Trump, but I blame more social media and that narrative that lives online than what Trump actually said or did.
Right. And people have talked about this a lot. Well, I mean, I thought that when social media came about, before Twitter was super big and Facebook was developing, we were like entering like a, a new democratic time or the most democratic time where people would have a voice. I didn't really imagine it would become what it's become, where people
A shit show.
no, and like it's more like social media. It's like it's it's not like separate from our personalities. It's just an amplification. So like can be as mean and as terrible in a way that they wouldn't be face to face on social media.
Right.
So like all that stuff comes out to a greater degree. And yeah, no, it's very true that the Trump presidency, you see social media take a new well take a new chapter out of the development of American politics.
It just went to a new level. And I don't know if we can go back. That's the scary part. Because
Uh,
okay, I don't think Trump will run for president next election. And I know for a fact Joe Biden will not, because I mean, he'll be struggling to stay awake or stand up. I mean, that man is like what, 78, 79?
yeah, he's up there.
I mean, they show pictures of like Bush when he first entered and when he left, Obama when he first entered and when he left, Clinton when he first entered and he left. Trump, well, I mean, he didn't do anything, so he looks about the same. Imagine Joe Biden. He comes in looking super old. How is he going to leave? Like dead? Like,
Yeah, he's already old. He was he was still looking pretty good at Veep, but definitely in the debates, you saw him slipping quite a bit.
yeah. Okay, so like, who's gonna run, and what is social media gonna be like, right? Because if Trump doesn't run, then who are they gonna rally around?
I mean, someone else will be different. We'll see what sort of tone it takes, and it could be someone uh, completely new. I mean, uh, if we look back to before Trump, like Obama came out of nowhere. I mean,
Yeah.
I knew about Cory Booker before I knew about Obama, and look how different time has been since then. So it could be someone completely new or uh, with something new, a new direction to take the political landscape.
Do you think that maybe we should maybe redo how we do elections, like electoral college and stuff like that?
I mean, a lot of people have talked about different sort of schemes, ranking and things like that. I mean, I yeah, I don't really know that there's many fixes that like I want to put my finger on, but I do think that term limits for Congress would definitely probably be a good thing.
Yeah.
Because I think that, and we've discussed this before, one of the things I think on both sides that people are frustrated with is like the inability for Congress to do anything big in like the
Yep.
last decade, because parties are fighting for power, unwilling to um, uh, make compromises, even about COVID relief. Remember, we were talking about how it's crazy that Congress is unable to compromise on just getting COVID relief
Like helping Americans.
package passed. We were talking about that in the fall. It's still going on, even with after the new election. So it's just the inability for those national political bodies to do anything is it's just difficult. And I think it goes to Congress and it goes to, well, people talk about special interest groups and the influence that the swamp in around the Capitol and in Washington, the power that they exert. So it kind of grinds things to a halt, and the political branches are unable to have that sweeping change either way that people would like to see.
Yeah. If they would just have like 2 or 3 term type of limit, then it's almost like, what was it? Barack Obama, when he went to Russia right before his second term, he literally told Vladimir Putin, I think I may be making this up, but Obama was caught on a hot mic going, "Hey, I'm in the middle of a re-election. After the election, I'll be more flexible."
Oh yeah, it was like Mendeleev, like the kind of like what people call the puppet of Putin. But
Oh yeah, that's right.
the
That's right.
point is made. The point
Right,
is made.
exactly, right? It's like, okay, if you're always fighting to get reelected, then you're going to be less willing to quote unquote, take a risk, even if it's the right thing to do, right? Because if it's perceived as wrong, then they're going to kick you out and then you lose power. And then who wants to lose power?
Right.
I mean, look at Trump. I mean, the man was just like, nah, man, I'm still the president, and I only lost because they stole the election. It's like, clearly that man didn't want to give up power. Um, so yeah, I completely agree. Term limits, those should be implemented immediately. But like, how can they do that, right? Like, when is Congress going to be like, yep, we're gonna limit our power?
That's the whole thing. That's kind of why that's kind of why there's a fixed number of congressmen. So like in the Senate there's 2 per state, 50 states, 100 senators, and in Congress is 435. It's not supposed to be stagnant at 435, but if they have more than 435 that was kind of frozen in time historically, then those existing 435 representatives have less power if there's more representatives.
What do you mean it got frozen?
Oh, so the number of congressional representatives is not necessarily fixed. So like you could have more. It's just distributed proportionally. So every time they do the census, they might give one state more of the 435,
Right.
less than the 435, but
Right.
it's kind of fixed in time. And for
So there could be 500.
Yeah, there could be 500.
Why did I not know this?
But why would they want that? Because then if there's more representatives, then each representative has less power, and already they're one of 435. So it's not like any one congressman is that influential. But if you're one of 100, say in the Senate, you can actually be very influential.
Right. That's another thing that bothers me is maybe the Senate is a little too powerful.
I mean, it's
like one guy that got elected in the middle of Arkansas is just as powerful as someone, I don't know, like in California where there's a billion people, right?
Right.
And I get it. You don't want to alienate smaller states, but there's got to be a better way, right? I don't know. That's just me talking out of my ass.
Well, I mean, it was supposed to be like the whole balance of how do you balance big state and small state? Well, New York and California are super influential in the House of Representatives, but in the Senate, everyone's kind of equal. So it kind of is supposed to balance out. But then also we've had the change where one party is the party of big states and the other party is more than party of small states, urban versus rural, and then the whole system didn't really account for that sort of alliance where the big states are represented by one party, and they feel maybe marginalized in a way because shouldn't it be majority rule, but the framers kind of wanted some sort of equity in how the different states might have a voice in the Senate.
Yeah, well, I do think that long term they're gonna have to refigure this out because clearly everyone's moving to a city, whether it's New York City, whether it's Chicago, whether it's whatever. Name a city in a state, that's where people are going, right? It's just a natural migration that this country has been doing for forever. Once it gets concentrated enough, look at Georgia, right? States that are regularly going red are going to start to go blue, and then all of a sudden conservatives and the right wingers are going to be like, wait a minute, this isn't fair. And so they're going to have to figure something out.
Yeah, well, we'll see how things develop. But it wasn't too long ago that the Republican Party was the city of commerce and of cities. Like the coasts were primarily Republican, and it was more rural areas, manufacturing, labor development that were the blue states. But we kind of shifted. The parties have kind of shifted demographically.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I don't know. It's a crazy time to be alive. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, definitely.
When are you going to come back to New York City?
I mean, I'll be back definitely when it's warmer, more full time. But yeah, for quarantine winter, been out of the city.
Yeah, well, they just opened up indoor dining, so that's a very welcomed change. Man, there was someone honking outside of my apartment.
So do you find now are people that personally like doing indoor dining, or they feel comfortable with that?
Well, yes and no. Almost everyone I know is young, so they don't give a shit. And either they've already had it or they got vaccinated.
Uh-huh.
So they feel more liberated to kind of say, all right, let's just go indoors instead of being frozen outside.
Right. Yeah, I've definitely done indoors, but I mean, as far as like going to someone else's apartment, I haven't really done that. And
no, I mean for the longest time, I didn't even do indoor dining or outdoor dining. I was just like, it's just an unnecessary risk. But of course, once I got COVID, I was like, all right, well, now it doesn't really fucking matter.
It's all over. You got it.
I mean, I played a good game and I lost. I lost and I admit defeat. So at this point, most like a lot of the people that I know, like I said, are either younger who already had it or they got vaccinated because they work in some sort of medical field. And so, shit, just go at it and enjoy your life, right?
Right.
And a very common theme on this podcast from everybody that I have is just the mental challenge, right? Like it's been a year. It's about to be a year of freaking out, not knowing what the virus is, not knowing what to do, the dangers of it, staying at home. People have lost their jobs. People that people know have died. I mean, the mental strain on the average person is out of this world. And so if I have the ability to go out and live a semi-normal life, I'm not going out everywhere and no mask and all that other bullshit. But, on a weekend, people want to go to the bar, let's do it. Grab your mask and let's do it, right? Just trying to get slowly back to normal. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Just be safe and don't respect others, right?
Yeah. No, definitely. I definitely think so. That's I think it's just I think next summer is going to be off the hook. People are going to be out in force.
Man, I am telling you, every fucking concert, I'm there. Like everything, like the amount of pent up demand for everything is astronomical. So I think by this fall, it'll be 70% normal this fall.
Yeah.
Once we get all the old people vaccinated.
No, that's definitely the hope.
Well, James, again, thank you for coming on again and talking to me a little bit about the whole Trump thing. And, I'm just glad that it's over. Trump is no longer president. I think people who supported Trump, I think they just need to accept the fact that he lost and just move on, right? If we want to move on as a country, everybody just needs to shut up, get work together, make your community better, and we'll all be better.
Yeah, let's move forward into the future.
Yeah. Well, I will talk to you later, man.
All right. Thank you.
See you.
All right. Bye-bye.